Hey, welcome to the Dudes Talk Movies podcast. I'm Drew.
I'm Cam.
And today we're with a very special guest as we talk about the 1978 slasher horror movie Halloween. And our special guest is Gunnar Olson.
Hi,
Gunnar.
my name's Gunnar.
What do you do?
Yeah.
I do a lot.
Like what? Like what?
I also podcast.
Oh.
What do you podcast?
I podcast just anything. I can talk for a while.
Is that like a verb? I podcast?
Yeah, I podcast a lot.
That sounds like a
You don't podcast, bro?
podcast, but yeah.
Podcast bros. You know what they say?
Well, yeah. What do you do at Eastern? I mean, we know you, but like...
I study journalism with these two. I also work at the
Not a lot of studying
Daily
going
Eastern
on.
News. Yeah, not a lot of studying. I will also work at the Daily Eastern News with them, covering the news. I also podcast, covering specifically the news. I do a weekly newsletter wrap-up podcast for the Den. So yeah, that's really what I do.
What year are you? What year are you?
Oh, what year am I?
Yes.
I am a junior.
All right, man. That's what's up. Today, we're talking about the 1978. See Drew's shirt over there.
Wearing the shirt. I felt bad because when we talked about Pulp Fiction, I don't even know how many weeks ago, I went home and I realized I had a Pulp Fiction sweatshirt the whole time that I could have worn, but I think I wore some other
He wore the day after.
Yeah, and I didn't know, and I was like,
No,
"You're gonna be mad," but
I'm like, but
so I thought I'd rep today. I think it's a good shirt.
it's a
Looks
good,
very nice.
that is a good shirt. I like it.
I guess I'll start by saying that I, Gunnar, and I know you're gonna not be happy that I said this, but I love this movie. I know exactly. Gunnar's not a fan, and I'll tell you why, Gunnar.
Okay.
I like it because obviously it's very impactful on the slasher movies. There's a lot of like copycat. You know,
It's big for the genre.
yeah, big for the genre. It was like the first one. It wasn't the first slasher movie, but it was the first one that kind of
Had like a box off, like
mainstream
Yeah.
hit, you know. And I think obviously it's involving it being around the Halloween time.
This makes the slasher movie a Halloween movie.
Yeah.
Together, like the genre of slasher.
Yeah, exactly. And I think after this, it kind of set off a whole chain of events where they were doing a slasher movie for like every holiday.
Yeah.
And they were really bad. They were really,
The
really bad.
Leprechaun.
yeah, dude. Like what? I've never seen it, but yeah, dude. It doesn't.
Terrible.
I don't think I'd run it, but
But yeah, what'd you think, Cam?
it was kind of whack. I did not like it. It
Oh,
Agreed.
yeah, it's not. I know. It's a great shirt.
thanks. Thanks
but
a lot.
I don't know. It just felt like just a bunch of random stuff was happening. I'll say it like that. It like you get introduced to these random girls and you see what they do. They're babysitting, and then they just die. You know, nothing.
In moaning fashion, man.
Dude, yeah, like random sex
Their
scenes.
deaths are so, like,
They do.
in my opinion, poorly executed.
Okay, so it's gonna be a 2v1 this podcast. I can
Let's see
tell.
if you can do it. But I'll give the synopsis and the cast and all that. Well, I'm pretty sure everyone's already seen it already. But if you haven't and you're like, well, if you just have it, it is.
You're under a rock.
Yeah.
It's about this guy. No, it starts off with this kid named Michael Myers in 1963. He is 6 years old. He brutally murders his 17-year-old sister by the name of Judith. At first, when it first comes on, though, I'll say it comes off like an adult is doing it because you see it from a first-person point of view. So it's just like in a handheld camera. And so he kills his sister, and then his parents come home. Like, Michael, what did you do? And he gets arrested, and he's locked away for 15 years. And then on Halloween Eve, October 30th, 78, he's going to a court date, but then he escapes and steals a car and goes back to, which I thought was surprising.
About what?
He went to, just that it takes place in Illinois.
Yeah, and I think it's a real town.
Haddonfield. Yeah, I used to think as a kid that every movie that showed Illinois, they had that for every state or country. Like I didn't believe that if that makes sense. I didn't think you targeted this specific town in Illinois.
Yeah.
But Michael comes back to town 15 years later.
Just to wreak havoc.
Man, he's killing everyone. Everyone's getting it.
Only if they're a babysitter.
Yeah, I don't know what I guess that's his thing. And he uses a knife, which I think is like one of the most brutal ways to go out. You feel every poke.
So uncivilized.
Yeah, I mean,
that
just
guy.
such gore. Actually, no, it's not gory. It's just
It's not a gore.
It's not a gory movie because you just kind of like see the hand go up and down and then blood splatter. You don't see it go in. Yeah. But
The most gory kills probably in the car when he does the neck, but even that's still like
that's
still like very good blood violence. Because once you get into the 80s, people start to actually like I feel like blood spewing and stuff.
yeah.
And I think that has something to do with obviously the budget, because I know we talked about Evil Dead, excuse me, a couple of weeks ago, and we mentioned a lot about how it was a low budget, but they managed to make it work. But still, I mean, that Evil Dead compared to this, that was like 3 years later, and it was gory as everything. But this one, it was only $300,000 to make it, and so. I mean, once you know that and you kind of can look past all of it, the movie's not scary to me.
I think that the opening scene of it being shaky first person is the most scariest.
Really?
Like home invasion-y type beat going on.
Yeah.
And as someone who is more afraid of, say, the home invasion than having to actually like fight off a murderer.
The house that he was in too, like at the very beginning, was so uncozy. Like it looked very
well. Every window's like open.
Yeah,
it's a very open house.
It feels very just not comfortable. No, like no one lives there.
Like not child friendly, I guess.
Yeah.
You said cozy.
Latchkey kids type.
Yeah.
You think that first scene is the most scary?
I think that's the most scary because like it's a little bit like, ooh, what's going on? And it also does help that you don't know what's going on. That lack of knowledge is.
And the rest of the movie kind of seems like I know what's to.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this slasher guy is just slashing people.
Okay.
And although the motive isn't clear, it's not like confusing me.
Yeah, not yet, at least the movie.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, we can kind of talk about that because I know we were originally going to plan on talking about Halloween 2, but we decided just to do this movie.
Yes.
Yeah, because I knew if we talked about Halloween 1 and 2, there would have been so much, like, intersection.
Yeah.
It would have been jumbled.
And we had a guest, so that would have been like, that would have been super. Someone told me that our last episode was long, but
yeah,
it was. It
I
wasn't
didn't
that
think
long.
it was long enough.
Thank you, man.
Thank you. Where's the button?
That one. You hit it. Yeah.
Thank you, Gunnar.
No problem.
Thanks, man.
But in Halloween 2, obviously, we learned that he has different motives to killing. At least in the first one, there's a different meaning. I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not going to go over it because that's a whole can of beans. But in this one, I think that the film does a good job of portraying Michael Myers as kind of a random, just a random force that just does it because he's evil.
Yeah.
And that's portrayed more through the dialogue scenes with Dr. Loomis, where he's kind of he does a lot of telling people things about how he's evil. And I think initially when he's talking about him being his therapist for 15 years, you do feel kind of eerie about him. You get that, and especially with the score, you get eerie. But I mean, if you're a big fan of Halloween and you've seen all the movies, that's the trend. He goes in every movie just warning people. And I just wanted to ask you guys, like, what do you think about how Michael Myers was portrayed in terms of like a murdering force and a killer?
He's very much like he's so big, like in his stature, that it's like, oh yeah, he's scary. I wouldn't want to go one-on-one with him anytime soon. But like he's still like he's so static in all of his movements. He's like kind of tactical with everything that it's like he just feels very blocky, and it doesn't make him feel threatening. It's like I feel like I can outrun any movement that he does,
That's why they started that trend on the internet where like they'll give you a head start to run into a house, unlock the door, and then like just see how fast you can do it. Because in the movie, he walks slow, but like if you do it in real life, your friend he has it.
You're safe.
Like, you think you could do that?
It depends
On
the situation.
someone is walking at you with a knife. Can you go to your house door, unlock it, and close the door before he gets you?
It depends on which Michael Myers it is, because in the later movies he's like a big fat guy.
Yeah. It's like in the later movies, like he's a normal almost. It's just his trait is to be slower.
Yeah.
But in these, he just is.
Okay.
And also his like movements are so over, like just overdone. You know what I mean? Like the way
Like a full pullback.
yeah. It's and then just or like at the end where like he's laying down and he just goes up on his back.
Like the Undertaker.
Yeah,
Like
it's
just full
like,
fold up.
Yeah, and that's kind of like what he's known for. Like there's other people like Freddy Krueger who is just he's moving just like
Very gangly.
Yeah, and then Jason Voorhees who's like built like a big football player.
Yeah.
And like I think this one kind of gives him a cool characteristic in terms of his body language. Like what did you have something to say about Cam, about him?
Oh, just about like his stance in pop culture. It's a good Halloween icon, no pun intended.
There you go.
The mask is fun.
You know, I think like you said, it's original. And I think this is a good way for people to kind of express their fandom for it because it's called Halloween. You wear it for Halloween.
I think it was originally supposed to just be called the
Babysitter Killers.
Yeah.
Or murderers, whatever.
Yeah.
And
which does not have as great of a reach.
no,
They
Halloween.
definitely cashed in on the holiday.
Yeah, but I think I don't know. I do think that he had like such a high stand. I don't think there's anything like kind of topping it. Kind of. I mean, I guess you get the two other Jason and
Freddy.
yeah. So they had like that. They had like video games made after them and all that. But I do think
He's the one who kind of started it all. I feel.
yeah, I do think the legacy is tarnished. But we might get into that later.
Yeah. What about the mask? What do we think about the mask?
Let me look that up again.
I heard that it was like a William Shatner mask
It
that
was.
they took, and I think that's pretty creative what they ended up doing with it because it does look drastically different. It looks very original.
I think it was
Yep.
William Shatner one, and then correct me if I'm wrong. Did they shave the sideburns? And
Yeah,
just
they
paint it
like
white?
messed with the hair and then they did painting of it.
Yeah.
I do like the gray thing because it makes him almost look zombie-ish.
Yeah.
You know.
Star Trek?
Yeah, William Shatner,
Yeah.
No clue that was till now.
Captain Kirk. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, another name.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they just took a Ram thing and then just kind of redesigned it, which they later had to in Halloween 2, or was it after Halloween 2? I think they reused the same mask from the first one and the second one, but they didn't know they were making a sequel, so it was just underneath John Carpenter's bed for like 3 years.
Oh.
And so that's why it has that weird look in the second one, where it looks like a little more like torn up.
Oh.
It does look worn.
Yeah.
That one.
But after that, they apparently William Shatner like said you can't use my likeliness because he figured out what it was. But that's only because it got so huge, which I'm assuming John Carpenter had no clue that the movie was going to be that big of a pop culture like iconic look. And I guess I'll ask you guys as well, with those scenes with Michael, especially how he's portrayed right off the bat when Dr. Loomis is with the nurse driving to the asylum. Just what do you guys think of his introduction, or kind of his supernatural kind of, not supernatural in this movie sense, but you know what I mean? Like his strength and stealing the car from him.
I found it to be weird because all those characteristics that he used to take the car, which was like, I'm leaping on to the back of the car, I'm reaching down and smashing out a window, you know, basically choking down and attacking somebody. That's very much like very stealthy, you know, type of, you know, attacking. Mm-hmm. And all of his other movements in this movie are very robotic. Yeah. It doesn't fit. It's almost like they scrapped the idea midway through the movie of, oh, he's like, you know, he's a killer, you know.
That's a good point. I didn't think
like a tactical killer, you know. He just changes to this blocky, static Frankenstein character after he steals the car. And it's just like, I feel like that's wasted because he's way more threatening if he was, you know, jumping on cars and can attack from every angle.
That is a weird, I didn't think of that. That's really strange.
I kind of thought of that. Like how I don't know, how when it came down to it, he was using all his different skills, but for the majority of the time, he's not like doing anything. But I think if, you know, he keeps this whole, like, if he kept that whole kind of
consistency,
with acting like a regular person, then that wouldn't really make him what he is. Because I think we only know him because he's slow, and like you said, that robotic, boxy type of movement. But I think if he just came out like a regular, you know, full on sprinting at you, then I'll ask you this: do you think it'd be scarier if he was sprinting at you?
Oh, if I could believe I could like outrun him, I'd be way more terrified of him.
I think obviously it would be scary in like the literal sense. Yeah. And one, I think that in terms of production, it just makes it so much easier when we just have to film this guy just walking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that, I don't know, there's just something about him, especially in the chase scene with Jamie Lee Curtis. There's something about her running from him like at top speed, but he's just walking and he's still like catching her. You know what I mean? Like there's something creepy about that. It's like you're running in a dream. And I think the movie...
Well, it also doesn't help that she, like, stops to try to hide every single time, but...
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Which, like...
Well, then you get those shots of her, like, terrified, you know, being worried, like, facial expressions.
But I think they portrayed kind of that just impending doom through him and his body movements. You could go either way. You could say, like, this is kind of dumb. Why is he walking so slow? But you could say, like, oh, that's kind of creepy that how, like, no matter how slow he is, he's going to get to her eventually. Mm-hmm. But what, like, in terms, I think for me, the most effective parts required the score, like the music. There's a lot of cues, especially when he is at the school, which that's a very random scene where he runs up and he like runs into the kid and he's grabbed by shoulders and it's just like, and then he just like is following this kid and he gets in the car and follows him. Which, by the way, I think the kid would know if a person's just cruising next to him for like 40 seconds.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, like the spatial awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah, how old is he?
The kid,
Like,
he's like
yeah.
8, maybe
9?
somewhere
Third
around,
grade, something like that.
somewhere in there.
Yeah, I think you get to talk like stranger danger at that age. So.
Well, it's the 70s though.
Yeah.
Latchkey kids.
Yeah,
you
man.
know.
Yeah. I
But
don't know.
also, I knew this before, but I just want to mention now. How can he drive?
With the
No, I mean like in general. Like he was.
Well,
put-
he
I think at
was
6 years old, and he's 21 when he breaks
Well, it's
out.
probably in with inmates who are adults that
you don't learn how to drive verbally. Well, I thought I cut you off. Keep going.
we can. 70s stick shift.
Dude, that's harder, isn't it?
Yeah, that's hard.
It's way harder.
Yeah,
No, I'm agreeing with how did you learn how to drive?
Yeah, like-
I'm actually like,
Did Loomis give him like lessons while he was like
Maybe.
Michael?
I think Lewis is just a really bad doctor.
You're like, yeah.
Because I can get like at the beginning where he like steals the car from. It's like more just instinctual, just driving away. Because you see him drive away, it's like kind of like this. But now he's just like slowly cruising. He drives for like a quarter of the movie.
He drives like how he walks.
Yeah, and my favorite.
That's good right there.
There you go. And my favorite part of the movie is when bingo.
I do. I'll be all week.
It's when Loomis.
It's funny because you do improv.
You improv?
Yeah, I am from.
You improv, bro?
Improvs.
Halloween, Eastern Illinois University, October 26th. If this is already out, should come out. Yeah.
But my one of my favorite scenes is when Loomis is at the store that he broke in and got the mask, and he's like sitting there waiting for the sheriff to get there, and Michael just drives by, and he has this look on him like he's driving. He's like, like he's like, oh. I find it so funny that he does that, but you can barely tell that he's doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how he drives. I guess that's the biggest plot hole of this entire movie.
You know what's a worse plot hole?
What's up?
That scene where Jamie Lee Curtis is like in her room and she looks out.
Yes.
She looks out her window and it's Michael Myers by the clothesline.
And then
it cuts back to her watching him, and it cuts back to outside and he's gone. And you're supposed to be like, and Jamie Lee reacts like, "Oh my God, he's gone."
never looked away.
She never looked away. She watched him walk away. Like, you can't tell me that she didn't just watch him walk away. That is such a big plot point. Like,
It really not like it really doesn't make sense because like it's not even like the thing at the end where he just kind of steps into the brush.
yeah,
It's like literally he's standing in a wide open like field or a backyard, and she's just like,
like if he was standing in the bush that he was standing in front of, and she like blinked and his head popped down or something like that, totally believable. But no, he would have had to step away. And the way he walks, the amount of time that would have taken,
longer than
like
that.
you would have seen him when they cut back. You would have seen him still walking out of the frame. Like, no, it's just like there's a couple plot holes that I'm just like, this is really wonky just because you've set up this character
yeah,
that's supposed to be so, kind of stunted by society and is way slower in reaction, and you shoot him like everybody else,
yeah. There's a lot of stuff in this movie that's definitely dated, and you can definitely tell that this script probably could have used a rewrite. Or
Oh, for real.
for like
Well, I guess they didn't make a remake, so.
that's true. Well, two, and
3 and 4. No.
Well, technically not
the remakes.
Oh,
Yeah, they're
Sorry.
like, no, Cam, don't
I thought-
you don't know what you're talking
technically
about.
the remakes are like
I thought I knew something.
continuations.
No, I'm just kidding. There's a lot of movies though. There's like what,
Like
13?
13, I believe.
Too many.
I can count. There's Halloween 2,
And timelines.
Halloween
there's so
3,
much.
which is like an anthology, and like 4, 5, 6
Yeah.
take up after 2, so 3's not in it. And then it
Yeah.
they do like an H20 timeline, which is like 2 movies.
Yeah, 1 and 2,
And then
it deletes the rest of the time.
that ends, and then there's the Rob Zombie, 2 of them, which is a reset.
Yeah.
Of 1 and 2 again, but it's like different. And then you do the 3 that just came out, which is Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends, which
Yeah.
are sequels after the first one, not 2, I
Not the
believe.
same one.
What are you talking about
No,
right now?
and I was
Like, what are
actually-
you saying?
There was like 5 different timelines plus an anthology movie in this.
I was actually
entire thing.
I was gonna ask you guys that because I feel like now more than ever that's a lot more apparent, especially in horror. Like the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie that came out I think last year. I wrote a column about it, butchered it. It's terrible, and it is a movie that takes place only after the first one, even though there's like 7 sequels and remakes.
Yeah.
And I just find it interesting. I don't know if you guys do that. This franchise kind of started that because I feel like beforehand there wasn't any big budget franchises besides like James Bond, which those are a reset anyway at the beginning. But I find it interesting that this movie kind of indirectly started that possibility of just saying, "Oh, these movies that we spent millions of dollars on, we can just ignore those."
Yeah,
It's interesting.
It very much is a bit cash grabby. I feel like
is. Oh.
I feel like if they would have,
Acknowledge.
I get if they want to do like, oh, we gave this to Rob Zombie and they did 2 films. I think that's different. We just remade it comparatively to just like, oh, here's a completely new timeline. It's like you just like it's like making fan fiction for already made content.
And it just makes it confusing. Like you kind of go into a hole of like, okay, you have these people who may have been invested in the last 3 movies, but now it's really a waste of time. It's in like resources.
I think they're trying to get out. It started with this, but it's continuing because of Marvel. I think that connects. I may be reaching because like
the trend of
because if you start Marvel, I think that's kind of what they're expecting. I mean, Halloween started it first, but I think they keep doing it because Marvel influenced it because they have like this whole storyline with like 30 different superheroes, and maybe just because I don't like this movie, I don't really care about Marvel. So, but I think it's a somewhat of a decent point.
No, I get what you mean. I get what you mean because especially in terms of like the characters themselves, they do a lot of reset. Like timelines get changed. Like Loki's alive. He's died 3 times in the MCU.
My only problem with the Halloween franchise with this is it's almost like Marvel's copying them because H20 happened in 2000, way before any of the Marvels. So it's like they honestly came up with the concept.
Yeah. I probably should have phrased that better because they started it first.
It's a good point, especially because like
there are like parallels.
Yeah, because it's now like there's franchises now that are just either they're running out of ideas or they're backed into a hole, so they have to go, oh, remember that thing that you watched for 2 hours of your life?
10 years ago.
Never mind, that didn't happen. We'll do this. It'll be cooler, and then it's not as good.
Like you thought about Saw. They just came out with the 10th one, Saw X. Yeah, you didn't really care for it, right?
I didn't care for it, and it takes place between the first and second.
Yeah, dude. Like,
I also heard that they're coming out with 2 more to finish the series, and the
Saws?
Yeah, 2 more Saws. The 12th one's going to take place like in between like 6 and 7. So their last film is going to be in the middle of the entire franchise.
It's crazy. It's so weird.
It's wacky.
They ran out of ideas, and Saw's a whole different beast that we can't really deal with within this thing.
Shout out to Saw 4.
Yeah, shout out. You like Saw 4?
I've never seen it.
Oh, why'd you say that?
Yeah, because I was in a film class the other day, and we watched the scene from Saw 4 where they throw one of the people, I don't even know,
in the window
through the window, and it ends up in a different set in the movie, and I just think that's really funny. So shout out to Saw 4.
Shout out to
give it a watch.
Give it a watch.
Saw 4.
What I know because you said something. I think you may have mentioned earlier, not in this episode, before we started recording, about the acting. What do we think about the acting, guys?
Man, those moans when you die.
Yo.
There is a lot of moaning when you die. I guess
I think
that was the 70s.
The acting's very hit or miss for me. I feel like the fear at the end from like Jamie Lee is like, that's fine, it's good. I think Michael Myers, it's iconic. Yeah. Michael Myers just being so stoned, it's more blocking than actual acting, character acting. I feel like the doctor, whatever his name is,
Loomis,
so over the top.
I can admit,
explanatory over. And we said this earlier. 2 sets up other stuff behind what's happening, and they also use him to do that same thing.
He's a plot device.
He's just a plot device, and I don't really like it that much. And the kids in the movie, not terrible child acting, but also they're barely in the movie, but they're just also other characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like the acting at all. It just seemed so forced. And like you said, I think I mentioned this last episode, I don't like children actors. They're needed, but, I don't expect much out of you. Like the ones that we have today, like Leo,
Just Leo.
Yeah, pretty much just
Leo.
him. No, I just watched the video. Who's Ryan Gosling? He's and Joaquin Phoenix. Was Joaquin? No, he was kind of older.
When he started,
Yeah. Oh,
he was young.
okay. Yeah. So they're cool. Christian Bale too.
They get a pass.
Love Christian Bale. But yeah, they get a pass. But yeah, I don't expect much out of children actors because I know their parents are telling them right before they say action. All right, little Johnny, give it all you got. Remember the time
We gotta pay rent.
remember the time your grandma died, and then just
And then they shove a Happy Meal in their face as soon as after they bawled their eyes.
It'd be different if like they grew up to be like big stars, and you're like, okay, this is their start. But
Like a Zendaya.
Yeah.
Or a Jenna Ortega.
I don't even know the names of the actors. Like they never were in a movie again.
yeah,
exactly.
Like
Jamie Lee Curtis is the only and Donald Pleasance, who plays Loomis, was already like a really popular actor beforehand, and he's a good actor. I just think in this movie his character plays one goal, just talk, exposition.
Also, does he really ever interact with Jamie Lee too much in the entire movie, other than at the end where he shoots?
See, that's I kind of like that part of the movie. I like how it's these two separate stories. It's her like basically unknowingly being stalked by a killer, and her friends die, and then Loomis trying to find him, doing a terrible job, but we're trying to find him, and then just so luckily finding the house. He just saw him be walking where the kids run out at the end, which I find convenience. Yeah, he does a terrible job at
like finding like
yes, and but I do like how that aspect where it's like two stories that kind of meet towards the end. I feel like when they do meet, the movie's over. I feel, and whereas the second one, I know you've seen the second one, we'll mention it, but in that one, it's more like they rejoin a lot sooner in the story, and it's a lot more. I find the ending of Halloween 2 a lot more suspenseful than the first one, because you care for Loomis, you care for Jamie, but they seem so distant. So like when he's like involved, you're just kind of like, this is happening very quickly, and this is
he's almost like, what is that gun thing? If you
Chekhov's?
Yeah, Chekhov's gun. He is the Chekhov's gun.
Yeah,
you see him in the first act, and then like he's kind of in the second act, but then he shows up and shoots Michael Myers in the third act.
Very conveniently.
Yeah.
And I'll bring it around back to the acting. It's just so hard to look at this because this isn't a mainstream movie. If it was like a movie like The Prestige and the acting was bad, you have nothing. You have no excuse.
Yeah.
But since it's like this, where it's the actors are not actors, besides they're not trained like Academy Award-winning actors. So when you're like critical about it, I think it's only because it's a very big product of the 70s that just so happened to become this big hit. Mm-hmm. And like Jamie Lee Curtis is the exception, but her acting's also not great, I can admit.
Yeah. She wasn't like her early 20s or like teens when she.
Yeah.
She was 20 when this movie.
Yeah, so I think at that point you should got it. Well, this is 70s acting, but I was going to say like at some point you should have had it together.
We could have been in hell.
You know what?
Yeah.
You could have been what's his name? Bob.
Yeah.
Who got stabbed and
I could do a convincing, just kind of sit there and quietly get stabbed and be like,
that's a cool shot though. That like when you see him like on the wall and he's looking
hanging. Yeah. Oh, not hanging, but like just on it.
Stuck
into the wall through the middle.
Yeah. And I just want to say that if I was a serial killer, I feel like what's going through Michael's head when he's in the house killing all the teenagers is kind of what I would think. So basically he kills Bob and he comes back with a blanket over him and Bob's glasses. And it's just like, what are you doing? Like, it's like, what are you doing?
It's like playing with his food, but the rest of the movie he doesn't play with his food.
Yeah,
he just goes.
He
just walks up to him and
he's making it up as he goes. It's just kind of
maybe that's the fun of it, 70 kind of. I guess you didn't want to make it so serious, but like it takes her a very long. Well, I'm saying that as if I don't know there's a killer under that blanket. Yeah. Like, what would you do if like you just do your thing and then they're coming back you're supposed to come back with a beer and like they come playing like that.
Weekend at Bernie's just like, hey! For real.
I don't know, it'd be kind of scary.
He walks Bob in over his shoulder with the glasses on him. Like,
oh my gosh, he's like ventriloquist dolling. Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh. But
that would have been a better movie.
And I know I said this was gonna be a 2v1. I'm kind of just throwing like all the flaws out.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
But I want to like make it clear that like I do really like the movie, and I think mostly because of the novelty of it. I mean, it's a fun movie to watch, and I think it does have a really good Halloween feel to it. Like when you're seeing Haddonfield, you're like, oh, it feels like Halloween. This isn't.
Well, I also think like the intro card of just like the pumpkin also gives a Halloween feel into the first shots of the house back in like the 60s.
Yeah,
It's
cool.
very Halloween, cold October's night. The setting of the movie is very made in those first 5 minutes.
And you have to think that this is the movie that basically, like all the horror movies that you might like, the slasher movies that you might like, took inspiration from this. So and when you're like being analyzed, like when you're critical of it, you kind of have to think, oh, it's the first time someone did something like this, A, B, and C. But I don't know. That's just my kind of thought process when I look at these older popular horror movies.
Yeah.
And then transitioning more towards kind of the ending chase. What do we think of Jamie Lee Curtis's like her character's chase from the one house to the next house? What was your guys' opinion on that?
I think it was finely choreographed. I think it went pretty smoothly. I think by the time she gets upstairs, I think the upstairs stuff, which is the more important stuff of that
Closet.
like closet, the stairway, when she's sitting by the door after he gets taken out the first time.
3 times I think he gets taken.
3 times he's taken out. But yeah, like I think like choreography wise, fine, pretty decent for the time. Scariness wise, it's slow guy chases normal speeded
Average face.
average person who just keeps trying to hide from him.
Well, I mean, and then again, you in 1978 when you're watching this, you don't really know if she's gonna make it because the final girl wasn't really established yet.
Yeah.
So like when I'm watching it for the first time, I'm like,
There's the final girl.
yeah, obviously she's gonna make it out, and
It's just how does she do it?
yeah, and so, but like I feel like if you're watching this 1978, you're like it's a lot more effective,
More intense.
Yeah, but it's really easy to choreograph the scene when Michael's just walking and she's running, and it's like, and she's going on neighbors' doors, and they're like, nope. And I thought that was pretty funny. But Cam, what did you think of the final?
I liked it. As long as I've known that there's like a plethora of these movies,
Plethora.
I know, right?
Plethora. Okay.
Word of the day.
I
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
right? Drew usually gets me on the.
A plethora.
Thanks.
There we go.
Plethora. There are a plethora of Halloween movies.
Yeah, there's a.
The definition's just completely wrong.
You should put that on the screen, just over our heads.
Yeah.
Definition.
And so if I say a word that's so, and Cam goes, that's a good word, and it's just completely wrong.
This is what this means.
A small amount.
Oh my gosh, yeah, there's a plethora of these movies, and even though I knew that already, I didn't even think about that when Jamie Lee Curtis was running across the street with when she was banging on the door with the kid, and it kind of kept me in suspense. I was about to curse. I was like, oh man, is a kid gonna open the door? He's kind of wakey or kind of he's asleep, so is he gonna get it in time?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Even though I knew that she makes it out, it wasn't on my mind at the moment, maybe because I was too like immersed in it, and I didn't really think about, oh yeah, there's like 12 other of these. So I don't know, that part was really cool. And even though he was walking pretty slow, and I haven't seen enough of these movies to like get tired of him, of Michael Myers like constantly being immortal, I guess, because I've only seen this one, and I think I've seen the 2018 version. I think I've seen another one after that, so I'm not like too tired of it to the point, because if you've seen like all of them and you've seen 1, 2,
I've seen 1, 2, and 3, and like I've read up on them because like slashers are like interesting to me. I would love to watch them all, but also I have a life.
Yeah. So you've seen the first 3, so you might have got tired of seeing them if you watch them in order. I'm watching them out of order, so I don't really care as much. But what are your...
Well, I feel like, so the order is weird because the third one's like anthology. It does not fit, does not have Jamie Lee Curtis. I think Michael Myers is not in it. Michael Myers not in it. It's a completely different opposite plot. It just
that could be a whole episode by itself.
It's called Halloween because it's a Halloween movie, takes place on Halloween.
Cash grab.
Cash grab. It's got like aliens. It's weird.
Heard of it.
The what's that called?
UFO?
No, you know the
Prequel?
Stonehenge. It has
Oh,
Stonehenge. in it.
I'm gonna guess.
Anyway,
Stonehenge.
wait, I have a funny joke.
What's that?
Oh man,
Wait, how many days till Halloween? 7 days?
something like that.
Yes.
7 more days till Halloween.
If you're a fan of the third one, you'll understand what it means.
Silver Shamrock. Anyway, hopefully you'll get DMCA.
He doesn't
for
get that. I get it.
Yeah,
But yeah, so 1 and 2, it's like they're fine. They're good movies, kind of. The first one's the second one way better. Third one in the middle for me. I think the premise is interesting. I do think if I were to watch like 4, 5, and 6, which I feel like from seeing people's like reactions to the whole series, people are kind of down on them because they're just like, you know, the fourth one like, oh, he's back because the third one doesn't have him. But then you get into 5 and 6 and you're like, yeah, it's just, you know, Michael Myers.
It's
you know, he's just chilling.
Yeah.
Oh, it's 20 years later. Oh, they're making another one. Oh, it's just Michael Myers and Jamie Lee.
It's begging for it to be different, but then hating it when it is.
Yeah.
Every time. That's how all the horror movies are.
What would you guys rate it?
Well,
sorry.
just a quick thing. I was just gonna ask really quick. I know we'll get this quick because I know the episode's run just a bit long. But what do you guys think of the final shot where Michael he runs away at the end after he's shot off the balcony? What was your guys' opinion on that? Do you think it was earned?
No.
Not earned, but to set up the second one, which I do think is a better movie, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
I'm not. It didn't bother me, but I'm like, I think at that point I knew the movie was over. So I'm like, you got to end it off some way. And I knew he kept, I think what happened, I don't know. I wasn't too upset with it. I'll keep it at that. It wasn't earned, no. But
I personally, and I'll try and cut this down, not be too analytical, but I think that the ending works because, I mean, this whole time, Michael is just kind of like a relentless just force throughout the entire thing. And then when you see that he finally is taking actually like fatally bodily damage from like 6 gunshot wounds and he falls from the thing.
Crazy.
Falls off his back. He's dead.
Like full revolver.
And Loomis, who like goes over the ledge and sees that he's not there, and he doesn't even look phased at all. And he turns and she's like crying. She's like, "What was that?" And he says like, "That's the boogeyman." And I can't remember the line exactly, but he basically is saying like, "Yeah, he's evil. That's it." And I think that's an effective ending, especially after that when you just see all the houses that we've seen throughout the movie with this heavy breathing, because it kind of gives this like symbolic thing that says like, "Oh, he's never going to be stopped because he's just pure evil."
Yeah.
It makes you kind of feel like, oh. But then the second one comes in, and like had that have been just the movie itself and no other sequels came by, the ending I feel would have been a lot more impactful. But now that we have the second
he got away.
Yeah.
He's more mystical than we thought he was, you know.
But the second one, which it's not a spoiler, but basically picks up exactly where the first one left off.
It's
literally the second.
It's to the second. Like they refilm the ending and put it in. Like it's overlapped by like a good 3 minutes.
Yeah. And so I think the original by itself, I think the ending is really effective. Yeah, the movie's dated, and yeah, there's the acting. There's a lot of details that make it dated and not the greatest movie, watching it from 2023. But at the time, I can see why it's very, very popular. And I still enjoy it, as I can tell by this delightful shirt. But yeah,
what merch?
Yeah, exactly. What would we rate it out of 5, guys? Gunnar, you can go first.
I would rate it 2 out of 5 stars. I think it's, you know, it does have the vibe going on that it is Halloween, you know, gets a star off of that, you know, gets another star off of just like its historical
Historical elephant.
Historical elephant in the room.
Just put a picture of an elephant popping up.
Yeah, the historical relevancy of it being, you know, one of the first, you know, big slasher, you know, characters, you know, Jamie Lee Curtis, one of the first, you know, final girls in a movie. And, you know, it spins out to be 13, you know, movies is significant enough, in my opinion, to get another star.
Yeah.
It's just kind of laughable.
We're adding a lot of stars, aren't we?
So you're 3?
No.
Oh, still 2?
Yeah, 2.
Okay, you said add another star.
Yeah.
To the 1.
to the 1 star, yeah. So it gets 1 star for her historical relevance.
Oh,
and it gets another star for the vibe.
For
all
the
the
vibe.
All the stars.
For the vibe. I like the way you said that though. The first final girl.
Yeah.
That goes up there with. We should start a list of all like the cool line people drop on here, because Drew Britton said a couple weeks ago, baptism by fire. So
when I tell you that me and
like
Cam pretended like we knew what he meant, and we just kind of went like,
you talked about that.
Yeah,
you dunked into the fire.
Clearly.
Yeah, that just sounded cool. Like we didn't know what it meant.
Anyway,
But yeah. What would I rate it? I think I'll give it a 2 out of 5 as well. I don't really have that many highs. I mean, it's good for just like you said, historical purposes.
It's a must during Halloween for me.
I don't hate it. I would definitely re-watch it, but I'm not gonna be like, man, this is really good. Why? I'm so excited. I'm gonna go home and put this on. You know, I'd rather put on Halloween 2 without even rewatching the first one.
Really?
You know,
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. That's a good point. I haven't seen all of Halloween too. Halloween or
I have a soft spot for Halloween too.
Halloween 2. I like it
enjoy
better
it.
because the shots are more tighter, but that's just because they're in a location and not just
a lot more money.
a lot more money too. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
doesn't really. I don't know. I don't mind. I wouldn't mind not rewatching this again because I get the gist of it. I think I can get the gist of it from any Halloween movie. I mean, you've seen more than I have.
Yeah.
So do you think you can get the gist from any other Halloween movie?
Yes. I mean, like,
Not
the gist,
three.
like
Is
not
that like?
three, but just the gist of like the formula, basically.
Yeah, like there's no like real storyline with it, right? You just keep trying to kill her.
If you went into a movie blind, you're fine. Like,
Okay.
Except
If
for
you went to go see Halloween Kills a couple of years ago without seeing
You're
the
fine.
other ones, you're fine.
Okay.
But if you were to like,
Halloween, like 5 or 6.
if you watch Halloween 6, then you're probably going to be like, okay, there's a lot of characters that I don't know. I don't know what they're talking
And there's a
about.
reason they scrapped the idea of that right after that movie.
But then you can go into Halloween, you know, H2O, and it'd be completely fine because it just picks up after 2, you know.
Yeah, I would give it probably, you know, it's a classic, and I'm wearing the shirt. So I'd probably honestly give it like a 4 out of 5.
Oh.
And I say that only because I kind of have a soft spot for it. I can acknowledge the flaws, and but I think overall I think it's like one of the best horror movies of all time, especially the best slasher movie, I think, because it started everything.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there are flaws, but I have a soft spot for it. And I have a soft spot for the whole franchise as a whole, except for the newer ones, which I haven't seen, but I hear are doo-doo butter.
Butter.
There you go. We'll add
Definition here.
yeah, definition here. But no, yeah, it's a really good movie. I would highly suggest it. I don't think they would, but
If it's October, watch it.
yeah.
If it's not October,
If it's December, it will have like nice cocoa. It's not really. It doesn't fit the vibe at all.
yeah, like no.
But yeah, that has been the Two Dudes Talk Movies podcast episode of Halloween. Gunnar, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for your time.
We will have you back sometime, hopefully. It's been a
Scream
blast.
7, ask for it. I really want to be on.
Scream
Really?
7.
Love Scream.
Oh boy,
Like the 7 specific?
the 7th Scream movie.
The 7th one hasn't come out yet.
Oh.
Happy for that episode.
Oh. When does that come out?
February or something.
Oh dang.
Scream movie comes out in the...
Yeah, they come out like January.
Because they're bad. They're the bad movies. They gotta get.
Oh,
No, it's so good.
Okay. Well, that will be another episode, maybe. But that has been our episode. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Drew,
I'm Cam.
and we will see you next week.
Wait, we are done with the Halloween.
It's true. It
Man,
is.
it's been a great month. I hope you guys enjoyed all the...
It's my last Halloween episode. in
Yeah,
October.
Drew picked all the movies this month, so if you loved them, hate them,
You can blame me or thank me.
yeah. So we'll be back with the regular schmegular. Also, yeah, the regular schmegular movies. Also, if you have any suggestions,
Yes.
leave them in the comments.
Scream 7.
We can't talk about it. It's not out yet.
Yeah, but when we get there.
We'll get there. Yeah, we'll give you back.
Request it when we get
Yes,
there.
but please recommend movies. So if you would like to watch us talk about a movie, we can do it instead of us picking movies that you don't like. But yes, please comment. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Peace.